And of course, we got your F My Life's coming up here in about 20 minutes, and you still have time to get your emails in, bfegan@kfma.com. But first, it's time for Law and Disorder. Here's a couple stories involving our judicial system that make you scratch your head. Like, what's going on here? So first and foremost, we are in the future. There's tons of AI programs out there, and parents are concerned because kids nowadays can literally have artificial intelligence do the work for them. Simply by asking the question, the way that they will phrase it will make it seem like it's a person answering. So they could just copy and paste. And if your kids aren't getting straight A's right now with the assist of modern technology, then they're doomed anyways. They're just dumb. They're not going to be able to make it because if they can't figure out that these programs exist right there, it's easier than Google. I mean, the fact that kids are getting bad grades at all and they've had Google on their phones this entire time is insane.
But they don't have to go to libraries anymore.
They don't have to do anything, right? They have it right there, the palm of their hands, and they can have their phone help them pretend they're smarter than they actually are. Well, somebody is looking to have artificial intelligence defend them in court. A company has announced its artificial intelligence app, Do Not Pay, will be used by a defendant in a court of law. The AI will reportedly listen to the court proceedings and advise the defendant through an earpiece during the hearing in February. Now, the company isn't releasing the name of the defendant, the date, or the location of the trial, citing privacy reasons, but this is also just a great experiment. And if this guy ends up getting off and not getting charged by using AI, it's going to change the game.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Well, and that's why they're also not releasing the information, because if it also fails terribly.
Right. That's true.
They're covering the tracks.
All right. Now, of course, human error is always going to be a major problem in our judicial system, whether it's an incompetent lawyer or, in this case, a very horny judge. And that's what happened with an Arkansas judge named Thomas David Caruth, who was arrested just last week and charged with 3 counts of honest services wire fraud, 3 counts of using a facility in interstate commerce, and some unlawful activity, 1 count of bribery, and just a bunch of stuff, and 1 count of making false statements. The reason why is because he allegedly told the defendant's girlfriend that he would expedite her boyfriend's trial if she had sex with him. Yes.
Like with witnesses?
No, not with witnesses, but he said this to the girlfriend. He's like, hey, you want your boyfriend's trial to be expedited a little quicker, so you can see him quicker? All you have to do is bang me. Well, she contacted the FBI, and then the FBI interviewed the judge. He allegedly lied to FBI agents about the incident, and this happened in April last year. Now, if he's convicted, he could face up to 20 years in prison. And I no word if he wants an expedited trial and who he wants to bang to make that happen.
Well, you can just get the AI to defend him.
That's true.
Yeah.
And finally, in Law and Disorder, there is prosecution considering using a parrot as a witness in a murder trial. In 2015, a dude named Martin was shot and killed in his own home in Michigan. Along with him was his wife, Glenna, who also suffered a single gunshot wound. A couple years later, Glenna was found guilty of first-degree murder of her husband, and her gunshot wound was determined to be a failed suicide attempt. But now we're learned that a piece of the puzzle that convicted Glenna was their pet parrot. Yes. Now, after Martin's death, his ex-wife took the parrot home and was chilled when the parrot started uttering the phrase, "Don't effing shoot." So even the parrot was so afraid of getting shot as well, or just repeating his former owner's last words. Christina Keller was convinced that those were her ex's last words, and in the end, the parrot wasn't used in the court proceedings, but initially it was considered an option by those who were prosecuting the case, calling a parrot to the stand.
That'd be wild.
Yeah, well, I mean, just the world of Law and Order is super wild. That's why I wanted to share these stories with you. All right, let's hit the reset. Be back with your F My Life's, and plus we still have tickets giveaway for the Mega Monster Tour and so much more. So keep it right here. It's Rock 102.1 KFMA. Podcast, we are live, and speaking of Law and Order, the way I want to kick off the podcast broadcast is by going down the rabbit hole, which is all of Manny's posts on Facebook. Now, we're catching Powers up because he didn't see this story, but if you didn't know, there's a controversy in a town where a female police officer, she was relieved from her position after it was revealed that she's had sexual relationships with multiple officers within her unit and even participated in some group activity at a party, walking around in a hot tub, topless and whatever. Now, the takeaway from this is a very average looking girl with a very like high freak tendency. Like the freak flag flies on this one big time. She likes to get it on. Her husband is standing by her no matter what, and now she's looking for another job. And Manny has been having a fantastic time sharing memes about this chick. Here's the first one: legally a Jedi because she has so much of the Force in her. Right?
That's the first one I saw him post, and I couldn't help myself but laugh.
Manny's going all day long. There's a train coming, and this lady's on the tracks. All right. Let's see. Where's some other ones? Here, I'm on Anthony's page, which I don't mean to be. Let's see. There's a couple
train
more.
day.
Oh, train day. He's doing good. I got more that I'm going to share. Hold on, we're on the air. Rock 2.1 KFMA. We're just going through OG streamer Manny's memes he's been posting on Facebook based off this police officer who got fired for illicit affairs and a quote unquote train. And it has not been lost on Manny and the memes he's been posting. It's been super funny. We just got started. He posted like 20 of them in the past like 3 days. So Manny, yeah, we're going through your Facebook feed on the podcast broadcast. We got news about Ice 9 Kills, and then we're also gonna have Paul Reiser on the podcast broadcast. So you can join us youtube.com/BeefVegan or keep it right here because the Ice 9 Kills news coming up next on Beef Vegan Presents after Green Day. Here's Brain Dead /Jaded. It's Rock 2.1 KFMA. Oh Manny, you dirty dog. All right, shout out to Manny. All right, here's the next one. Okay, legally the Jedi, we saw that. This one is a Drake meme. Arrest some clinically insane perps. Bust several nuts.
And he said he made some of these.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Good for you, Manny. This one is a car that on the back of the car says "I eat ass," and then you know why I pulled you over? Oh, it's great. Find me the name of this girl again, because it's escaping me. Tomato. Finishes off a black guy. Ooh, not touching that one. There's a train one again.
I just put in police officer and an autofilled fired for sleeping with half the department.
Yes, that's what people are Googling. That's what they want to know about.
Yeah.
Carfax says it's one owner, the car. Oh, a lot of people have driven that car. Okay. See, when you have the perfect experience to handle the job, it's called Five Guys. I can start today. That one did make me LOL when I first saw that, Manny. In fact, I ha-ha'd it. You could tell right there. All right, so
that's his greatest compliment is the ha-ha.
That's what I do. You know, if it makes me I don't hand out those ha-has all willy-nilly.
That's right.
I have to genuinely ha-ha before I ha-ha. The gangbang unit, there's the husband of the police officer in question, or the former police officer, I should say.
Yeah.
Let's see. Tennessee police sex scandal, 5 officers fired, 3 suspended as sex scandal rocks Lavargne Police Department. And then the guy from The Hangover, I'm here for the gangbang.
Yeah, her name is Megan Hall.
Yes, Megan Hall.
She looks like a Megan.
Yeah. It's like throwing a hot dog down a hall. All right, and let's see. Yeah, so he's just sharing all these. All right, so that's Manny's memes, and
he kept promising. He's like, last one, and then he posts 5 more. He's like, no, this one's really the last one, and then another 10.
Yeah, he can't stop.
That might be why I thought I saw so many. It's just all Manny,
right?
Because I saw a lot of those.
Yes, it is a majority. Manny just posted. He's on top of it. You know, he's ready to go. And when there's a sex scandal breaking out in the police department, Manny will have it covered. In fact, actually, if we didn't have Paul Reiser coming on the show here in a little bit, I'd pop you in here, Manny, just so you give us an update of what's happening in the case.
Else, Manny, we would have done it. If it's Helen Hunt, she's out. All right, but it's Paul.
Helen
we got to
Hunt.
hang out with him.
Oh, sorry, saying we would bump Helen. I get it. Well, that's a Mad About You joke reference from
right.
You know when Mad About You went off the air?
1990. 1997, 1999.
You're getting closer. Getting closer.
Did it get past Y2K?
No, it did not get past Y2K. It lasted 7 seasons and ended in 1999. But yes, so you were right on the second.
So by
guess.
getting closer, I was right. Okay.
On the second time. yeah. And that wasn't 97, but 99. But I recognize, or when I first started watching Paul Reiser, or knew who Paul Reiser was, when I was a kid with My Two Dads. You remember that show?
Yeah,
Mhm.
I remember My Two Dads.
Way ahead of its time.
Definitely.
Way ahead of its time. I mean, there wasn't gay undertones, but there should have been.
Right.
In fact, actually, it was kind of the setup where Paul Reiser's character was the anal retentive kind of square dad.
Mhm.
And then the other dad was the dad who fucks. And that was the premise of the entire show, if you recall.
Yeah.
And then they're raising a daughter together. And he just like, the dad who fucks is like, Paul, you're going to bed at 8. Watch your daughter. I'm going to go out and bang these 2 chicks. Hey,
2.5 Men. That whole system works. You just got to keep that formula going for decades.
the 2.5 Men.
Because 2.5 Men is the same formula decades later.
Oh, they did.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
they did. Except they switched it up from a daughter to a son.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Look at that. Yeah. And they were right. That's Chuck Lorre just ripping off ideas, right?
Yeah.
Actually, if I look into My Two Dads, I would not be surprised if Chuck Lorre was involved, actually. I'll look it up. But yes, Paul Reiser is going to be joining us here on the podcast broadcast. We're excited about that. So I'm keeping an eye on that backstage. But let's get on the air, talk some Ice Nine Kills, all right?
Okay.
All right, here we go. Rock 102.1 KFMA. Welcome back to Beef Vegan Presents. Weirdo's a resident metal fan. She digs all these bands consistently. Ice Nine Kills is one of her favorite. And you have you have an update on some Ice Nine Kills, huh? Is there some I guess not drama, but what's happening in the world of Ice Nine Kills?
I mean, Ice Nine Kills, who was just here in December for the Trinity Terror Tour, they have really been nailing it when it comes to joining up this kind of metalcore scene with horror because of their themes of their songs and everything. So they released their newest video, which is called Welcome to Horrorwood, which actually doesn't reference. It's a completely original theme, and it is fantastic.
Okay.
It's really, really good. So they went ahead and, of course, Friday the 13th, why not release a video on that? But they had to make a statement which said that due to the extremely violent nature of Welcome to Horrorwood video, we are currently battling a potential ban from all platforms. We're working diligently to find a way to still release today. Stand by.
Why? Was the video too gruesome or graphic to be released on YouTube?
Oh, it was fantastically packed with blood, guns, and all sorts of slashy special effects.
Do you like subscribe to their website where you were able to see it, or how did you see this stuff?
So I do have the mobile app, which is called INK, so Ice Nine Kills. You can get a premium subscription to it, which is like $7 a month. And I was like, do I want to pay $7 to actually watch this video? I did not. I waited for it to get loaded. It got loaded to first Dead Meat's YouTube channel, which the videos feature James A. Janess, who is a producer of Dead Meat's channel and is also a horror actor.
Okay.
Yeah, they're really solid with doing that.
Nice.
With making sure that they've got all these references like Miko Hughes, who played played Gage, who's the kid from Pet Sematary.
Okay.
They actually had him in the Funeral Derangements video, which is of course inspired by the Stephen King classic.
Right.
So yeah, so they
Hate that
first so they went to Dead Meats and then they posted it to their own YouTube channel, but it's censored.
Oh.
Yeah.
Weird.
Yeah.
Weird.
So like right when they like put a chainsaw through 2 cops, they're like, and censored.
Wow.
Or a high heel through the eyeball of somebody. So yeah, it was pretty gratuitous.
Oh, nice. That actually sounds good. But would you spend $7 a month just to see stuff like that?
I mean, they have other things like merch release, which they do really good hand in hand. Like they had a fantastic Jaws release when they had Rocking the Boat come out, which is one of their singles based on Jaws.
Okay.
So I don't know. There's also a social media aspect to it. They do giveaways, things like that, but I don't think I'd pay $7 a month for it.
Right. Well, I mean, at least they're doing something that makes them have to provide content on a different platform other than YouTube to get to incite people to actually want to subscribe and be a member or something. So that's, I would say better than selling nudes. It's a little more creative.
I mean, they have been quite genius with their merch. I think they did $2 million in sales in just merch last year.
Yeah, but is that just plagiarizing horror films and then putting their name Ice Nine Kills on it? Because that's brilliant.
I mean, yeah, it's super brilliant. But here's the thing. Ice Nine Kills has been around since 2000.
Yeah.
They are in their 23rd year, and they've
Wow.
really only picked up steam since The Silver Scream, which came out in 2018. And then last year, The Silver Scream 2, Welcome to Horrorwood, came out. Excuse me, not last year, 2021.
Yeah. Well,
So-
let that be a lesson to all aspiring artists out there. You never know when your day will come. But the only way to not make it is just to give up. Oh, inspiring words from yours truly. All right. We'll be back with more Beef Vegan Presents right after this. You know the name of the song. It's Planet Zero from Shinedown. Rock 102.1 KFMA. Keeping the conversation moving. YouTube.com/Beef Vegan. It's the podcast broadcast. Words and words.
No, I mean, I have to give it to Ice Nine Kills. I mean, at one point, they weren't even booked on Warped Tour. They would just go to the lines and sell CDs.
Okay.
Like hundreds a day. They sold tens of thousands of CDs that way without even being
Out of the
booked
trunk
on.
of their car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They literally they have really done a great job of combining, especially with all the horror cameos and everything I've done with the music videos and everything.
Yeah. I love that. And I just love the hustle. So I don't knock it at all.
100%.
It's like Turnstile as well. Turnstile's a band that was around almost 2 decades before they finally broke.
Mhm.
So that's the way to do it, though. You build that rabid fan base from the core, from the ground up. And then when you finally, quote unquote, make it, those bands that rode with you all that time, they're still sticking with you. So
Right. And the fact that they're going to, they're opening for the M72 Metallica World Tour, I think that they're going to definitely tap into 80s thrash metal fans who are also horror fans. So they're just going to keep growing.
yeah. Rick's asking how it's been going. Oh, has it been that long, Rick? Well, welcome back to this podcast broadcast stream. And shout out to Held Out as well for checking out the stream. As always, we'll probably have you guys in studio here soon for that big local love show that's happening on February 25th. So keep those calendars marked for that. All right, we're getting ready here for what we have coming up next, which I wanted to talk about. Well, real quick, if you want something sad for your wrestling, I know it's not that we're not going to talk about this on the air. But we talked about Lisa Marie Presley and her son committing suicide and her not really recovering from that and eventually doing a long suicide of sorts, just kind of self-destructing until she passed away, which is very sad. Well, Kevin Nash's son recently passed away as well.
Yes.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, and he's getting extremely depressed. In
Yeah.
fact, he's threatening suicide on his podcast.
Oh my
Click
God.
this.
Mhm.
Yeah. Here's some quotes. In fact, I have audio that I could pull up, but I don't even want to do that. He's like, time flies when you have a gun in your mouth. And he's like, time flies when you're having fun.
Yeah.
But then he goes on and talking to his co-host about this, like his grief. And it's been like 18 weeks or something like that. No, week 12,
Week
12 weeks,
Yeah.
right? That he lost his boy. And he says that he wakes up in the morning and he has nothing to do. And he's so hurt. He's hurting so much that he doesn't even want to get out of bed to do anything.
Yeah.
Right. So, him saying this stuff, you got to be on the lookout. It's a very tragic time to be a wrestling fan right now. We just heard Jay Briscoe passed away earlier this morning.
Yeah.
Did you not hear this?
No.
Yeah.
Jay Briscoe passed away of a car accident. He's driving his 8-year-old daughter on the way to cheer practice. And he passed away in a car accident. He was 38 years old.
Yeah. His daughter's still in critical condition.
Yeah, it
Oh
is
my gosh.
heartbreaking. And if you don't know about the Briscoes, they're from Ring of Honor, 30-time tag team champions. Jay Briscoe, former heavyweight champion, charismatic as fuck. And I'm going to share a promo that he did a few years ago with this country gangster gimmick that I could not get enough of. They've always been my favorite. I've always wanted to see them in the big show, but for political reasons, they never made it to that stage. And it's unfortunate, and I passed away. Rock 102.1 KFMA. Welcome back to Beef Vegan Presents. Sorry, I just blew a Power's mind. I see him here like morning. I'm sorry, bud. Yeah, I gave bad news. A professional wrestler, Jay Briscoe, passed away this morning. It is trending #1 on Twitter, which I guess is a silver lining that people are honoring his memory. Lots of people tweeting out about this. He's 38 years old, and it was a car accident. He was driving with his daughter, and his daughter's currently in critical condition. Let's hope that she pulls through. Very devastating, though, because this was kind of this is such a strange story of the Briscoes in general. these wrestlers that have been over and have been legends on the underground circuit for 2 decades, and get all the props in the world from other professional wrestlers and fans alike, but have never been featured on a main stage like WWE for whatever reasons, and political reasons, I guess. And are the Briscoes related to Gerald Briscoe? Are they Gerald Briscoe's son? Or
I don't think they're actually related to like the classic Briscoes.
Yeah, okay.
Right? I think it's just
I think it's just the name.
Yep, just a name.
Okay.
You know, but they're definitely known for being a little more extreme, a little more violent. And, you know, much like in this world, if you say something stupid once, it's going to follow you forever. So they had some stupid comments, and that's why they never really made it to the big stage.
That's what it was. They canceled themselves before it became fashionable.
Yes.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah.
Now they still had a very successful career, and they were doing great. And Jay Briscoe is a family man and loved his daughter. And seeing some of the posts are heartbreaking there of him, you know, even dressing up like a cheerleader, like putting his hair up in a high bun and doing some routines with his daughter. He had a great relationship with him. So, you know, it's a major loss for everyone who knew and loved him, but definitely a loss for wrestling fans as well.
Yeah,
so.
And only 38. I mean, him and Eddie Guerrero, he was also 38.
Yeah. Trying to look at that's 2 different things, but
right.
The fact of the matter is, for a professional wrestler too, they don't really peak until around 40. I mean, he's in the prime of his career, basically.
I mean, they are really like right on the verge. As far as the Briscoes are concerned, that's shocking.
Yes, yeah, it is shocking. I'm sorry to lay that on you there, but yeah.
So welcome in. Here's some depression.
I woke up and came straight here. It's true. I did not check the wrestling news.
All right. Well, so what we'll do is I'm going to play you on the podcast broadcast. Now I can't play it on the air because it's graphic. I mean, the verbiage on that, but this gangster hick character that they embodied was so engaging. I couldn't take my eyes off it. So I'm going to share that on the podcast broadcast. We'll have comedian Paul Reiser joining us there as well. YouTube.com/beefvegan. Got music on the way from Weirdo. Stick around. It's Rock 102.1. Clear. Yeah, I mean, I see it in your eyes. I upset you, bud. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I can't believe that's shocking.
I know.
Again, we're on the verge to be the next big team in the world.
Yeah. In fact, actually, a lot of people could even insinuate that the Usos' whole gimmick was based off of the Briscoes. The Briscoes, in a way, you know, embodied that street gimmick that, you know, I mean, obviously in the 90s ECW, we seen gangster gimmicks, but it was based in reality so much so. It was great. It was just, you couldn't take your eyes off it. And they were fantastic workers as well. They did a trilogy with for the Revival FTR that wrestling fans completely mark out about.
Yeah.
I really love. Now, this is, I don't know when this was, but this was years ago before Jay developed braids and everything. I want to say it was at least a decade ago.
Okay.
Right. So it's like 28 years old. They're in a farm. This is a Ring of Honor promo. And this is just fantastic television. It really was. And so I'm going to share this. And it is tragic for, again, the family, the little girl who hopefully
probably not. No.
Okay, let's listen to this. Check this out.
We're putting our tag straps on the line. Crazy, man. And then MMA done got all the respect in the world for the people that do MMA. But the shit that pisses me off, when you got Johnny Badass walking to the bar with his little tap-out shirt on. He went to the gym for 2 weeks, so his little muscles popped out a little bit. And he think he's God's gift to women. He walks around like his shit don't stink. I guarantee you, one of y'all little tap-out boys bring that shit down here to Sanderford, you'll be lucky to get out of this bitch alive. Now, David, Kyle, I ain't saying that y'all that type of people, but you got David Richards walking around with his little title belt and a mouthpiece in it. It's pro wrestling, son.
Hey, brother, Terry Funk ain't wearing no mouthpiece.
Hell no, Terry Funk ain't wearing no damn mouthpiece.
No.
Bruce Brody ain't wearing no mouthpiece. Getting focused and shit. Talking about I'm focused. I'm kicking this bag. I'm focused for my match. Shit. That's where we different, boys. We a different type of people. We ain't got time to be focused. Focused. Shit, we live on a farm. We got to get shit done. We ain't focused. Does it look like stable thoughts go through my mind? Do I look like a rational thinker to you?
Do I look
This
like a
guy, I
rational
guarantee you, he ain't no rational thinker. Shit, we walk in there on Dr. Phil, he shit is. Damn, son.
My bad. I thought you.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Right?
So good.
Yeah.
You definitely see where the Usos, yeah.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
definitely see the Usos. This was early. It was almost early Usos. And the Usos are the watered down, safer version of, right? And I always looked at the Usos gimmick, even with the rapping and stuff. Not that the Briscoes rap, as basically a rip of the Briscoes, bringing kind of like a realness, raw gangster kind of vibe. And you're talking about like connecting with middle America, like the wrestling fan, like say the Iowa white trash. There's been video or movies about, the wannabes in that area. Speaking the same lingo. I met people from Galesburg, Illinois. I'm like, that sounds like Galesburg to me,
Mhm.
So yeah, it was always fascinating to watch them. And obviously just devastating. And his look today, he just looked like $1 million. He looked phenomenal. He looked like a star, and that's an intangible that a lot of professionals don't have. And you see him, and you're just like, I want to watch this dude.
Yeah.
What's he gonna do?
Yeah.
Right. So yeah.
Does it look like I'm stable?
Right?
Yeah.
Look like stable thoughts, Gunther. Again, when you're already like up the quotable thing, like
Yeah.
that's that charisma.
Yeah.
That is that charisma. All right,
Yeah.
getting ready here for Paul Reiser. Earlier this morning, we had an excellent morning moron. And in case you missed it, it went a little something like this. Green Day and Rock 102.1 KFMA. It's Beef Vegan Presents. Now 6:17 and time for your morning moron. Let's do this. A wise man once said, love hurts, right? And going through a divorce after you've been married to somebody for, 3 decades is definitely going to be super painful. But there are good ways to go about it, and there are wrong ways to go about it. I'm going to tell you about a wrong way to go about it in today's morning moron, because that's what we do here. It was a 62-year-old man who probably didn't get the memo that he also gets half in a divorce, right? So, and especially in California, it's like a 50-50 state. You're going to get half, all right? Yeah, she's going to take half, and that's going to suck. But you're still going to have half left. So when talking about a house, half that house is yours. Keep that in mind before you start ramming vehicles into it. All right? That's this 62-year-old Ronald Dunn found out the hard way as he rammed his own truck into his own house the other day, but didn't stop there. He then came back with a dump truck somehow to do even more revenge. And I actually have video and audio of this shared by ABC7 that you're going to be able to see on the podcast broadcast, and you'll hear it now. These are witnesses just standing by watching a dump truck drive into a house. It is amazing.
Where did he get a dump truck?
Well, that's a question I don't have an answer for right now, but that's amazing. He found one. It's like Grand Theft Auto. Oh, there it goes. Boom.
Wow.
I love people just like, they just put their hands up like, well, he's running the dump truck into the house. He's not stopping. He's hitting cars. Oh, taking out cars. The whole nine. He went nutty, which is amazing to watch on Twitter. But also, if it's your house, it just sucks.
Yeah.
So, according to neighbors, he showed up on Sunday afternoon, a white Chevy Impala, and tore up the garage door. Then he left, came back minutes later with a dump truck, crashed it into the house multiple times, and smashed up cars on the street. And it's all on video. Now, it's not clear where he got the dump truck,
Okay.
but he eventually drove off and still wasn't done. He came back a third time to do it again in the same Chevy Impala. So this is how furious he was. Now,
Oh my gosh.
cops are catching flack for taking over 30 minutes to get there.
Holy crap. 30
Yes.
minutes.
Yes, now this is in Los Angeles, but it was in Beverly Hills. Now, you might be surprised to find out that it was in one of those inner city places like Watts or Compton. And cops are like, yeah, we'll get there as soon as he calms down. Now, last we heard, they haven't said if he's been charged yet or if he was still on the run. And his soon-to-be ex said she was staying somewhere else. And
Yeah.
I think that's probably a good idea.
Super smart idea.
Yes. So for being so distraught over a divorce that you're going to take multiple vehicles, steal them, and then drive them into your former home, all those reasons definitely make you a morning moron. Yes, indeed. All right, Paul Reiser's going to be on with us here in a couple minutes. Hopefully, hopefully I didn't mess up the times again. But yeah, you never know. It happens. Let's see. What's the hardest lesson you learned as an adult?
Hardest lesson I learned as an adult. Ignorance isn't bliss. That's a good one.
No, you saying you could be dumb and and unhappy?
You don't get away with it as you get older. Ignorance when you're younger, it's I didn't know that's how it works. You get away with stuff, but as you get older, it's like you kind of run out of that excuse. People are like, you're old enough to know that. Like, do your taxes.
It's like true.
Yeah.
Yes.
I would say late fees like on like credit cards and different bills and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, because it just adds up so fast, or it unlocks this like new interest rate that you didn't know you could have possibly gotten.
Right. I've been building up my my credit score, which is good. I'm at like 681 right now.
Nice.
Which is almost up to 700. That's my goal, and that's coming from like nothing. I was non-existent for the first like 15 years of my adulthood.
Yeah,
non-existent. Financially, nothing. You couldn't track anything. Everything was like kind of under the table, independent contractor stuff, right? So I wouldn't even know what to think about what my tax returns would look like for the past like 20 years. So many goose eggs on there, right? Like, you were living on the streets, I assume.
Yeah.
Now I'm building it up because I've been like, I want to lease a car, right? I don't want to buy a car, but even right now, because the goal is to pay off the car that I'm driving right now and gift it to my daughter who just turned 17. I'm behind on that schedule.
And gift it? You're just going to give it to her?
I love her.
Oh,
I know.
Good guy.
I know. Well, I mean, she has to pay other shit, but yes, I was going to gift it to her. But at the same time, it's difficult because it's a very bad time to buy a car or even lease a car, because cars right now are like crazy expensive. They've inflated in their price as well. So even when I'm looking at something where I'm like, I could budget like $400 a month or maybe $500 if I want to splurge and, just drive something that's beyond my financial means just to kind of stunt a little bit. Even that would be just like a shitty ass, like
I'm gonna stunt in my Honda Accord,
Chevy Equinox or something, right? It's brutal. So I'm like, I don't know if I'm gonna give my daughter a car now.
What kind of car would you want?
Honestly, I'm not a car snob,
right?
Because I drive a Kia Soul and I like it. And honestly, I looked at another Kia Soul. I'm like, I get a modern Kia Soul. We have 2 Kia Souls in the driveway. I don't care being that family. But at the same time, since I'm not doing as many DJ gigs and labor, I wouldn't mind having a car that wasn't like an SUV-ish. I wouldn't mind a hybrid. I wouldn't mind. To be honest with you, if I had my choice and it was affordable, I'd do a Chevy Maxima. I've been a fan of
a Nissan Maxima.
A Nissan Maxima. Sorry, thank you. And this really negates what I was about to say. I've been a fan of Nissan Maxima for my adult life, but my first car was a 1988 Nissan Maxima. And so there is a little bit of nostalgia there. Now I wouldn't get a 1988. I'd want a brand new Nissan Maxima because those things are like spaceships.
Yeah, I looked at one of those. I used to have an Altima, so then Maxima would be the next kind of level.
All right. Let me please welcome our guest.
There we go. I'm going to make this a little better for you, so it's not lighting in your eyes.
Oh, nice.
I try to
Good
do
morning,
this
Paul
for you guys,
Reiser.
people. Good morning.
Thank you for taking the time to pop in with us on the podcast broadcast. So right now we're on the podcast side, and in about 2 minutes we're going to be on the broadcast side, going back and forth on air and off. I'm very excited about you coming to town here February 4th at the Rialto Theater, first and foremost.
I'm very excited. I'm still trying to understand what you just said. We'll be on and off. What?
I know. I'm sorry. I do tend to confuse people. So I call this the podcast broadcast, right? So we are on Rock 102.1 on the FM side, but right now, currently, we're just on the stream. And in about minute 25, we're going to be on the FM side as well.
On the radio.
So we are live streaming right now into people's homes, as you're saying.
Yes. Yeah.
I would have dressed up. I would have put on pants. I would have put on pants, to be honest.
No, none of us are wearing pants.
No pants at all.
Yeah.
No, you've got it going. You've got the matching hoodie with beef. It's good to go.
It's hoodie weather. Yes.
I'm going to do this for radio. So radio doesn't have I should have done this before we got speaking. Okay.
Yeah,
All
you're
right.
good though.
All right. So yes, I'm coming to the lovely Rialto Theater on February 4th, which is a Saturday. I don't believe I've been to Tucson performing. If I have, it was a long time ago.
Oh,
It was
good.
just,
So,
it was mainly pioneers and horses and carriages back then when I first showed up.
well,
Very
we have
tough crowd.
upgraded.
Very tough crowd back then.
Yes, we have upgraded. We added an extra stoplight since the last time you were here. So slowly but surely, you're working our way up. But the Rialto Theater is probably one of the best places in town to perform. It's a beautiful theater, and you'll have a lot of fun there. It's a good.
I
room.
only play the best theaters, but I'm glad to hear.
Yeah.
If you said, it's a real dive, I'd have to reconsider.
Well, I mean, it's Tucson nice. I don't know if that.
That
means
sounds great.
anything.
I have, I took a long time off of not doing stand-up, and I hadn't been on the road. And this year I've been out a bunch, and it's just the most fun for me. And they're all, theaters this size, they're really warm and intimate. And I missed that all the years I wasn't out. I missed seeing actual people, especially now after a pandemic. People are so happy to be out again and actually laughing, and you see people in their seats. It's not on Zoom, as lovely as you three are. It's nice to see live people.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was going to ask you that. We're speaking with comedian Paul Reiser, who's performing at the Rialto Theater on February 12th. It's
4th.
February 4th. Yeah. Okay. Sorry. But I was going to ask you this. Okay. So this has been a while since you've been doing stand up. Did you hone your skills again by hitting up a bunch of open mics? Because usually that was the way you would do it back in the 80s when you grew up with that class of comedians. So do you go out, test the jokes, and then that's
the only way to do it. I mean, it's I went back, it was a couple of years ago, I went back to a club here in Los Angeles, and it was funny because the younger comics go, "Oh, what are you doing here?" It's a Tuesday night. They go, "You getting ready for a special?" I went, "No." They go, "You doing a Tonight Show or something?" I went, "No." They go, "Why are you here on a Tuesday?" I said, "Because this is how you do it," And it was funny. The first time I went back up, and I had not really done it for years. And the first time I went up, it felt just like I did when I was 19. The first time I went on stage, and I thought there aren't a lot of things that you can do in your 60s that feel like you did when you were 19. But stand up is maybe the only one. And in that, it was just as fun. It was just as exciting. It was just as nerve wracking. And it definitely took a while, till you get the muscle back. And I said, it's sort of like if you play basketball and you're pretty good, but you don't play for 10 years, you know how to do it, but the muscles are not firing. You got to re-get. So it's like, I would have a couple of jokes and I'll go, how do I get from this joke to that joke? What was the other piece of it? It's like you have to really reorient yourself. But I've gotten all the kinks out of the system. By the time I get to Tucson, she'll be rising. Oh no, that's Phoenix. Wait a minute.
Same difference.
She might still be sleeping in Tucson. But yeah, so it took a while, but I tell people it's really the only way to do it. There's no way to accelerate getting back on your feet in stand-up. You have to just put in the hours on stage. There's no app that speeds up the process for you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but that's great though. You get that adrenaline and you feel like you're building it up. But what's one thing that never gets rusty? Is your timing still good when you hit the stage after years taking the time off, or you even have to kind of redevelop that?
Yeah. I think the timing about stand-up, it's different than being funny with your friends or being funny on TV. That's one thing, but the muscle stand-up is, what I love about it is, as I said, it's interactive and you're making 1,000 decisions every minute and it changes every night. Even if the material is the same tomorrow as it was today, the audience is different and you're watching and you're looking at, and so that's the muscle that has to come back. I think my sense of humor has been sort of the same. I was sort of surprised to see that a lot of the stuff I would come up with was sort of in line with the stuff that I've always thought of. People say, "What do you talk about?" And I said, the truth is I'm not smart enough to make anything up. So I can only tell you what happened with me. And, in my life with my wife, my kids. But the audiences laugh because they're going, "Oh, that sounds like me." And so that's always very comforting to me to realize, oh, it's not just me, huh? We're all going through this together.
Right. Well, you always been a relatable comic and everything that you've done. And again, going through generations of classes. You started off with that great 80s class of stand-up comedians, going into the 90s with the sitcoms. And then it seems like if you're hitting the road now, you're going to have multiple generations of fans because of your stint on Stranger Things. Oh, by the way, congratulations on Reboot, by the way. I love that show. I love your role on that show.
It's really fun. Yeah, it is totally the audience has expanded, and it's funny to me that a lot of people just don't know that I ever did stand up, which is understandable because I took a lot of years off. But my friend was saying that their 19-year-old kid said, "Wait a minute, Dr. Owens from Stranger Things, the guy with the white lab coat, he's going to try to be funny, and he's a comedian. That's what he does." So it's, but it's funny. I can watch as they're coming in. The audience is filing in. I can kind of go, "I'll bet you that's a Mad About You couple. That's a Kaminsky Method fan. That's the boys." But it's fun. Everybody leaves having a good time. So that makes me, it's not like I'm tailoring it to anybody. I do. Here's what I do, and everybody seems to be having a great time. So that's good.
Well, I mean, I think that shows the level of your skill as well, because again, you're speaking to a different age groups, large audience, not catered or niche by any means. So what's funny is universally funny at your shows, and young and old alike. We're going to talk about The Boys and so much more. We have a bunch of questions in a few minutes here with Paul Reiser. You can see him at the Rialto Theater on February 4th. Live and in person. Only a limited amount of tickets left, so you want to go to rialtotheater.com to get those. Podcast broadcast is live, youtube.com/bfegan with Paul Reiser. Clear. All right. Press a lot of buttons. Boop, boop, boop.
Oh,
and then
it's so impressive. A whole bunch of you.
You like the plugs and everything?
Yeah,
See, I'm just showing my pro skills. You never thought somebody
gotten this down to the bottom, have I?
The light.
It's just ugly hardware you don't need.
Yeah, it's not too bright.
For the late show, this is going to be perfect. There we go.
Nice.
There you go. I want to ask, so going to some of these venues again, like one of the things that I find that a lot of the comedians talk about, especially even Jerry Seinfeld will talk about it, how playing some of these colleges that the kids are offended now. Have you accidentally offended anybody and you're just like shocked because it's just a matter of fact joke or something that's a little generic, but nowadays some of the younger folks are a little sensitive?
Well, first, I don't know if any of us play colleges.
That's what he said he wouldn't. He said he kind of doesn't anymore.
I don't know. Maybe it was. No, there's definitely a heightened sensibility, which for the most part is really great. It's like the people now are like, well, we have to stop being so woke. I went, do we know what is, is it bad to be aware and sensitive and like, right? Okay. One of the fun things on this show, Reboot, which is a show about a cutesy little TV show being rebooted. So it's not about that show, but it's about how the people who make the show come back. So I played the guy who created the show 25 years ago. And now there's a younger writer who wants to make it socially relevant and politically correct, if you want. And what's fun on the show, we get to have like the writer's room scene where we talk about the script. And my character will keep saying things that are not to be said anymore. And the younger writers will go, no, you can't say that. But what's fun is we get to actually have the conversation about why is Eskimo a bad word? I didn't know. When did Eskimo go bad? And it shouldn't just be about trying to thread the needle and not offending anybody. It should be like, well, why is that bad? What can you say? What can you not say? And there's a lot of comedy to be mined from that. Personally, I mean, I don't like offending people. It's not really I don't enjoy making people feel uncomfortable. So I never really skate around anything too dicey. I mean, sometimes I'll be surprised, to answer your question along the way. Sometimes somebody will respond and I'll go, I think you misunderstood because I don't mean what you think I mean.
What about something that you haven't written, but something you performed that anyone has come back and given you grief over? Like it's your fault that you played a character. I mean, like a show like The Boys is a pretty aggressive show. That's not for everybody.
No, I think it is what my mother-in-law, my wife's mother, who's 87. Anytime I'm on a new show, she goes, well, what's it about? I'll tell her. She goes, but are you a nice guy? I went, It doesn't matter. Because are you a nice doctor on Stranger? Are you a good? I go, I don't have a medical license actually, so it doesn't really matter. No, I don't think people blame. I mean, I do have people come over with a big smile and go, "Oh, I hated you on Aliens." And it's like, okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
But I'll have some, an interviewer will go, "What was it like playing an asshole on Aliens?" I go, well, you say that. I say he was just misunderstood. See, I feel for my characters.
Yeah, I think if you come from the perspective, like if you're playing a villain, I think they say that a true villain is someone who believes that they're right.
Yeah.
Right. So
Yeah, for sure.
Well, I mean, on The Boys, you played the legend, which kind of seemed like it kind of took all these awful stereotypes of that manager or producer of Hollywood. Did you really enjoy getting to kind of play that? And did you maybe take any inspiration from some real life managers or producers? You don't have to name names.
Yeah. Well, when I spoke to the creator, it was sort of based on a couple of real people, but just as inspiration. But it was really funny to me because it was such a type. It was a guy, and I knew a guy like that who was no longer around, but who, those guys who dress as they did 40 years ago, think it's still, or still have the comb over and try to pretend that they're actually 40 years younger. And they'll try to impress people with, women that they slept with 60 years ago. It's like, I don't know how it is.
Right.
A, it's creepy, and B, never heard
gluttony.
of her. So
Right.
I think a lot of that stuff was
back in
added
the top.
on the set. I don't know if that was in the script, but that was really fun. And I had to keep coming up. Well, who would it have been around in the 80s? Who are the actresses? It's like someone said, Kelly LeBrock. I said, perfect. That's
Spelled her name out was fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh, so good.
Let me ask
Thank you. That's funny. Yeah. I was telling somebody I had never heard of the show. I mean, there's so many great shows out there. And I had not seen The Boys. I didn't even know what it was when they called and they offered me this role. So I asked my very hip 22-year-old son, I said, have you heard of this show, The Boys? They're inviting me on. He said, oh, it's great, and you'll hate it. And I watched it and went, oh, I get it. Yeah, it's great. And it's really over the top.
Yeah.
It's great too because you watched the previous seasons. You didn't even know what you were in store for on the season that you debuted on because they took it to a whole nother level.
Yeah.
I mean, Amazon now has standards and practices because of this season. And I'd like to think that you get some credit. Yeah. Oh, yeah. They didn't have standards and practices until the third season of The Boys.
Yes.
All thanks to Paul Reiser.
They call it the Paul Reiser effect. Yes.
We've got to draw a line somewhere. Exactly.
Yeah, you've been blessed to get, offered roles in all these buzzworthy, successful shows. And then even, anchoring, upstarts like Reboot, which I feel like.
Yeah, go figure. It makes no sense to me. But, people, I'm sorry, my phone keeps buzzing. What people don't always believe me when I tell them, it's like those shows are great. And it's, obviously to be on something like Stranger Things, which is a global phenomenon, the likes of which really rarely happens. But they're not as fun to do like on the day as it is for me to do stand-up. And it's like, but stand-up, you're seeing, it's 1,000 people. I go, yeah, but it's live. And
yes,
and it's human. You're actually talking. And someone said, has stand-up, I did an interview and they asked me, has stand-up changed? And I went, well, subjects have changed and certain, as you say, certain sensibilities have changed, but the act of doing it has not changed. And it's as old as, the oldest form of entertainment, storytelling. So you come on stage and it's just you and you see actual faces and they're listening and laughing and you're laughing together. And I've been doing a thing lately where towards the end of the show, I'll take questions and audiences will fill out a card and they'll answer questions. And it's always fun because you never know. People always have some really bizarre question that you have to suddenly answer for them. But it's live, it's spontaneous, and it changes, every night. And so I'm really looking forward. So people, as I said, people don't often say, well, why are you doing that? You don't have to do that. I said, no, I don't have to. I just like it. It's the most fun part for me.
Yeah, and I love that you rediscovered your passion and love for stand-up comedy and bringing it back out to the road because you're truly one of the greats, and it's great to see you. That I mean, it's an added pleasure for fans who don't know any of your previous work and are only fans of your acting work to be able to see you perform live and in person and entertain them truly and organically like you do,
No,
which
that's
I'm stoked for you. I'm
that's
very excited.
very kind of you. Yeah, you know, when I took all those years off, it wasn't really intentional. I kind of meant to. I was always planning to get back to stand up, and one thing led to another, and it took me longer than I meant to. But the minute I got back into it, I went, yes, boy, I missed this. I missed doing it. So happy to be out on the road and making people laugh again.
That's great. Let me ask you this quick question, and I know that I'm gonna have to let you go. I'm sure you're booked up, but we were arguing that My Two Dads is when you first popped up on my radar, right? And I loved My Two Dads. And Powers pointed out to me that Two and a Half Men essentially ripped off the whole thing. Who was the showrunner of My Two Dads? Was that Chuck Lorre too, or no?
No, that was a guy named Michael Jacobs who did Charles in Charge and I think Dinosaur. A Boy Meets World, and yeah, you know, that was sort of that's kind of the show, that the silly soft show that Reboot is sort of not poking fun of, but that's the type of family show that they are trying to reboot, and it doesn't necessarily work in the world today.
Yeah, and does that bring back? Is that one of the things that appealed or drew you to Reboot? You know, saying like, "Oh, I know this show. I was on this show at one point."
No, that wasn't it. What drew me to the show was, first of all, it's got this unbelievable cast that was already on board. It's Keegan-Michael Key, and Johnny Knoxville, and Judy Greer, Rachel Bloom, and top to bottom funny people. And the writer was Steve Levitan, who did Modern Family. So all these top-notch people and a great script, and the role of being like the guy who's trying to keep it the way it was. I thought, well, that's really funny. You have the young writers trying to make it one thing, and me going, let's just come on, keep it snappy and funny. I said, that's really, to play the old school guy was really appealing.
Yeah, but, the family dynamic.
Yeah, it's so lifelike, you know. I mean, being in that world, doing a show about making a TV show, it's like, okay, sometimes my head explodes. They say, well, we're doing the run-through scene. I go, it's a scene about a run-through, but we're not doing a run-through. No, we're doing a scene. I'm like, okay.
my favorite genre is Hollywood making fun of Hollywood.
Yeah.
Like I love that.
It is good. What's the longest stretch you went without work? Because it seems like you're consistently working, but have you taken time off? Like,
yeah, you know, when Mad About You was over in '99.
Yeah.
I mean, I basically took off, and then I would do a movie here, or I would write. I was doing a lot of writing, but I was basically, you know, enjoying staying home. I had a new baby. We had a new home, and so I was really enjoying stepping off the treadmill. And then so it was periodic things. It was working as much as I wanted to, but somehow it's interesting. About, I don't know, 9 years ago, when I just started dipping my toe back into stand-up, coincidentally, that's when everything else started happening, and I was getting all these other movies and shows. And it's not because, we saw him at Chuckles Comedy Club yesterday. It's like, it was just sort of coincidental that once I left the house and put myself out there, these things started happening. And I don't know why, but I'm not going to fight it.
Yeah, would you consider your career to be hotter than it's ever been? Even peak Mad About You years?
Well, that was a pretty big jump, you know, to go from being a stand-up and occasional movies to being on a big hit show that's in, 15 million homes every week, or whatever it was. That's a big jump. And the world has changed in that there's so many more platforms. Used to be you're on ABC, NBC, or CBS.
That's it.
That was it. And now, well, people, you're on a show that nobody's heard of the platform. It's on, if it's not Netflix, it's, it could be any number of them. So, it seems it's been busier, and a lot of these shows that I'm on are very, popular. Yeah. But, there are things that I've done that I've worked much harder at that don't get seen as much. And sometimes those are the most rewarding things. I did a show that I'm not in, but I wrote and produced called There's Johnny, which is now watchable on Peacock, and another one. And that was a labor of love. It's about the behind the scenes of the Tonight Show, about a kid in 1972 works at Johnny Carson's Tonight Show. It's called There's Johnny.
Nice.
And that was something I worked on for years. It's like, 72 people saw it. There was not a lot of people.
Right.
So it's interesting. And then something I can just drop into The Boys, which I'm just an invited guest, but it's a huge worldwide show.
With There's Johnny, is that a movie or is that a series? That's
it's
on
a 7-episode series on Peacock.
And somebody's playing Johnny Carson, and
nobody plays Johnny Carson. You just sort of see him in the background. But we used clips that we did it in conjunction with Carson's production company, and so we had use of the library. So we'd find a clip of George Carlin, and so you're seeing the clip of George, and then you see behind the set of us. So it's really about the characters who work on the show, and this kid, this innocent kid from the Nebraska farm who drops into Hollywood. If you want to, it's not making fun of Hollywood, but it's really behind the scenes. But it's about a time that was important to me, because when I was 15, watching the Tonight Show, and like, I don't know how you get on that. But there's George Carlin, there's Steve Martin, there's Rodney Dangerfield, there's all these guys that I worshipped, and so that was a great example of something that wasn't as widely seen, but something that was something I loved doing.
You're piquing my interest. So
Yeah,
how old
that
were
sounds
you?
amazing.
How old were you when you first appeared on the Tonight Show?
It was 1982, so I was 26.
Wow.
Did Johnny invite you over couch after your first appearance?
No, not the first time. Since the first time I just did a stand-up, and I got one of these. I went, okay. And then I didn't do it for a few years. And then in about 86, I started doing it a lot, and he had me back regularly, and I always sitting down. I never did stand up again there. I did everything from the couch, but he was very welcoming and very supportive, and and that has a currency that those shows don't have anymore. That especially to your parents, like, oh, you're on Johnny Carson, you must be doing okay.
Right.
It's not the same now to be on Colbert or Seth Meyers or whatever. As great as they are, it's just Johnny was singular in that. Hey, I got to jump off and call another radio show.
Yeah, I didn't want to take up too much time, but yes, I'm sorry if I took up too much time. It was just
great talking to you guys. I appreciate the really great questions.
Yeah, such a pleasure. Thank you so much. Can't wait to see you at the Rialto Theater. So I'll let you pop off, and
all right, we'll see you there. Thanks,
yes,
everyone.
sir.
Bye.
All right, Paul Reiser, everybody. Obviously, fantastic conversation with Paul, and he'll be here February 4th. So yeah, that was perfect timing too. And I was like, I hope I don't piss off the publicist, because usually only get like 10 minutes. We fucking ran 25 minutes with Paul.
Paul Reiser, that was awesome.
That was great. I mean, over 40 years of knowledge, and especially when he did come from that, like, you're a stand-up comedian, you want to get on Johnny Carson, and then you want to get the sitcom. Like, he came from that era. That era is gone.
Yep.
Yeah,
like that will never happen again.
Nope. Yeah, because even when we was talking about all the streaming services, the three shows that we talked about the most, The Boys on Amazon, Reboot on Hulu, and Stranger Things on Netflix. This guy, he's literally on all the streaming services, but he can't even separate them. He doesn't even know the difference, because they're just too many. So even if you're getting the paycheck, he's like, I don't even know which check I'm cashing.
Right.
Boom, boom, boom.
I don't even know which studio lot I'm showing up to today, because all of them shoot on all of them.
Yeah.
Out in LA.
Yeah. So you guys dig that conversation with Paul? I mean, he's old school, but he's a legend. So yeah, I'm excited. And I thank the Rialto Theater for that, not Reiser, for hooking me up with that conversation.
I didn't get to ask him what he thinks about prop comedy.
Oh yeah. No, he hates prop comedy. He hates it. He loathes it. I know. I read this in his bio.
Yeah.
He's like, the one thing I hate is guys drinking out of golden toilets. You're
Powers
maniac.
was so proud when you walked in this morning. It was the first thing. He opens the door and leads with the golden toilet.
I took all my energy to not try to shoehorn this into the conversation.
Well, I appreciate that, because you never want to make it about your props. You always want to make it about the guest and having a conversation. So that's your insider training for the day.
I didn't ask him the other question. I just want to do this.
I'll be Paul. I'll answer it for you. What is it?
I just want to go. So, what's Helen Hunt really like? I just wanted to do that.
Yeah, no, I know that answer. And so Paul Reiser, I'm like, oh, she's a menace. You don't want to get on her bad side at all. So Helen Hunt. There's another word that we used to call her that rhymes with Hunt. But
Stop it. You stop it.
I didn't say it. That's Paul Reiser.
Sweet Paul Reiser would never talk about Helen Hunt like that.
No, I'm
that's
sure
my favorite
he's got a
word.
great relationship with Paul or with Helen Hunt. Why wouldn't he? He made millions of dollars and
Mhm.
entertained 15 million people a week with her for 7 years. Mad
And
About You.
Think about that, because that's also like when he's on Mad About You, their average viewership for being on a hit show was like 15 million.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
And that's what, again, wrestling's highest rating was an 8.
Yes.
Yeah.
They were on cable.
We'll talk about
Mhm.
there isn't a show that is drawing 15 million viewers today, not even the American Idols and shit like that. It just 'cause
Yeah.
with everything's so diluted, and now it's just all about advertisers going after the million at a time, with the exception of like big events, sporting events like Super Bowl, shit like
Right.
that.
Yeah, it could take months for a show to have an episode be seen 15 million times
Right.
because of the way
Think
the
of that.
streaming services. Because you didn't want to miss. Because
Yeah,
if you
sure.
missed, you had nothing to talk about the next day.
Yep.
Because there was no reruns.
Yep.
Mhm.
Oh, back in the day,
Yeah,
the good old 1990s.
Oh, we're living in a better time for lazy people. We definitely get catered to, and so.
Mhm.
But yeah, I was excited. He answered all the questions I wanted him to answer as far as his love and renewed love for stand-up comedy and just the process, and that's how it is. So if you're an aspiring stand-up comedy comic as well, it's just going out there and getting into stage time, doing open mics. I didn't ask him if he bombed at all, and I'm sure he always was able to save a joke, being a professional as well as he is, and
Yeah.
how good he was at his peak. He could always kind of fall back on that, where you're bombing, how to save it.
Right.
By either self-deprecation or any other kind of tricks he might have up his sleeve. But find out for yourself. Rialto Theater, February 4th. We're going to wrap things up right now with a 2-second beef tip. I know.
That's what she said.
She got you there.
That is literally all the time we have for the show. I'd like to thank Paul Reiser for joining us on the podcast broadcast, which you can watch on demand. And Powers and Weirdo for coming in, as always. I have a beef tip. If you're trying to save money, put $5 in a jar every time you have sex.
Hey, I heard that yesterday.
I'm going to do it all week long. I've been doing it all year, and I got $5. Thank you for listening.
When you wish upon a side of beef, soon
All right, guys.
Later, y'all.
Thank you. Well done, both you guys.
Well done.
But if you've
Well done.
been
Paul Reiser's my new best friend.
I'll knock out all
NBG.
your teeth.
NBG.